this big idea in their head of like what they want you to do, and then like whatever you do, it doesn't ever seem to live up to their expectations.
So like, I'm like the first generation they bring here, and then everything is first tried on me, so they had no idea about.
So we struggled dealing with those two identities. It's an identity crisis. What am I? Am I an Arab or am I an American? What are my values? What are my goals? My mom tells me I'm not allowed to talk to boys, but at school it's like I can't talk to boys. And my parents tell me I have to follow a structure. The culture says you have to get married, have children, education comes later. But in the US, it's individualism. You get your education, you grow up, you be what you want to be, but put the effort into it. So when you have the clash of both, and as parents setting high expectations or different expectations, not necessarily high, it's different. It's what do I do? And then this is an identity crisis that multiple kids just like us went through. And it takes a lot for us to get out of it. And I kind of want to build off of that story by Amany telling us her story from her friend, what brought up this whole topic.
Hi everyone, welcome to the PositiveLeo show. And today we have three special guests, Zaina, Rahee, and Amany. We're going to talk on some interesting topics in relations to the immigrant dream, children of immigrants living in America, being sandwiched in between different expectations. And the question that rings through is, are we good enough? And Amany shared a very interesting topic. She actually brought up the topic. So Amany and Rahee, can you share a little bit about the topic and the context behind that and why we should discuss that more and why is it so important to put that on the discussion table?
Well, I think it's like something a lot of people can relate to, like never being good enough for your parents. They put so much work and effort to bringing you to this country with so many opportunities that like it seems like whatever you do, it's never good enough because they have this big idea in their head of like what they want you to do, and then like whatever you do, it doesn't ever seem to live up to their expectations.
Thank you, Amany. Rahee, what do you think, Rahee?
I feel like, I'm like the first generation they bring here, and then everything is first tried on me, so they had no idea about like things like schools and like colleges here. And so it's like equally struggle for them too, like to figure out things for their children. And so, like we had to try everything first, and then it's better for like the younger generation.
The experiment.
Yeah, we are the experiment.
New experiments.
The oldest group.
Gotcha. And Zaina, feel free to share.
Yeah, so I'm a child of immigrants. My dad came here when he was younger. My mom was a little bit older, and I was raised, born and raised here, and in that mixed culture of the Middle Eastern Arabian and the American independence. So it was, like you said, as a sandwich in between the both. And as my daughter, she was born here, and she lived most of her life in Abu Dhabi. It's a little bit of a different experience for her. So I think that three of our experiences plus yours, it's going to shed a different light on this topic.
Oh, absolutely. And me the same. My family came to the States in the early 80s after the Vietnam War. And coming to the States, I can relate to this topic 100% because coming to the States, my mom and dad had 6 kids. I'm number 5. I was the firstborn in the States. And growing up and trying to figure out outside, there's the American dream. I'm going to school, I'm speaking English, I'm doing my thing, trying to get an education, right? And at home, I'm hearing Vietnamese and different cultures and things. So I'm, in a sense, feel sandwiched between my mom and dad thinking, Vinh, you should do this, become a doctor and learn Vietnamese and marry a Vietnamese girl and follow the tradition and keep it going. And then outside, my friends are telling me different stories of individualism. You should explore life more, get a career, the American dream, 18, move out, all kinds of stuff. It was tough. It was not easy at all. I was trying to meet my mom and dad's expectations, which was always high. It's like, I got a B. What about an A minus? I got an A minus. What about an A plus? You know what I mean? And when you get an A plus, what about being the president? It never stops. So when does it ever stop? It's kind of like chasing money. It's infinity, right? You keep going and going, but then earlier, Zaina, before this recording, we were talking about how our parents gave up a lot of things for us to be able to live and get to where we are today. And so of course we're grateful, but at the same time we have to be realistic about the pressure, because sometimes I felt like a time bomb. I felt like, you know what I mean, you're giving me enough ingredients for me to but I need to be able to release some of that pressure so I can live a life that is also meaningful, a life that's me, but a life that's respectful to the people that made it possible, because without our parents we'd be probably nothing, you know what I mean? So I threw a lot at y'all, Amany, Rahee, Zaina. Just feel free to express your feelings and your thoughts on this.
A little bit. Kind of started off by saying like you said, our parents did leave their homeland, the place that they were brought up in, they had roots in. And they left that to build a better life for them and their kids. So that is an intention they had, a pure intention to give us opportunities. You know, the U.S. is a land of opportunities. Other countries do not open their doors like the U.S. does. So this is why all of our parents were mixed. We're all from different mix. We're very diverse. We're different from different cultures. And each one of us has that similar story. Our homeland country did not provide the opportunities, so we had to move. That's what it is. That's the story of our ancestors. And given that, we know that we struggled as the first generation. Like my daughter is the second generation, but Rahee's the first, and so are you. So we struggled. Dealing with those two identities. It's an identity crisis. What am I? Am I an Arab or am I an American? What are my values? What are my goals? You know, my mom tells me I'm not allowed to talk to boys, but at school it's like I can't talk to boys. And you know, my parents tell me I have to follow a structure. You know, the culture says you have to get married, have children, education comes later. But in the US, it's individualism. You get your education, you grow up, you be what you want to be, but put the effort into it. So when you have the clash of both, and the parents setting high expectations or different expectations, not necessarily high, it's different. It's what do I do? And then this is an identity crisis that multiple kids just like us went through. And it takes a lot for us to get out of it. And I kind of want to build off on that story by Amany telling us her story from her friend, what brought up this whole topic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were asking me like topics for this, like what you guys can talk about, and I mentioned like I feel like something that's like that unites a lot of people our age is like the not being good enough for your parents. Like for example, one of my friends, she's like a very smart kid, like she's very smart, and I always thought of her as like, oh my god, wow, like she has these perfect grades, like her parents must be so proud of her. And then she would like talk to us and like tell us like how her parents would not appreciate her, like her work. Like they would always, like she said one day, like, oh yeah, my mom was like yelling at me for not having like good enough grades. I'm like, you're like the smartest one here. Like what is she saying? Like, and it's like, because like I think she's the first or second generation, and the mom's like, well, why can't you do better? Like why do you have like a B in this class? Like why do you only have this many A's? Why don't you have more? And like I feel like even if she did have straight A's, her mom would still say the same stuff. Like why is not this better? And like I feel like deep down the mom truly does know that her daughter's good. It's just like I feel like it's a sort of projecting, if that makes sense. Like that's just was my story that struck it up, and I feel like I have a lot of friends that have those kind of issues as well.
And Rahee, do you have any similar experiences that you've been through?
I feel like in my own house, my parents, like, you know, they say like the Indian stereotypical minds are like, you know, they are like expected to be smart. And then every time, you know, they feel like, you know, they are going through something, they say like that you're gonna, you know, get good grades and everything. So in your school, I think.
It's also like a pressure, like all this stuff my parents did, like I want to make them feel proud, like oh my gosh, it's like so much anxiety just to
it's also because like they came here because of us. It's like always that pressure on us, like building up, so you know that you're gonna work hard for them. Yeah.
Wow, there's a lot from that I want to piggyback on. Like one is, we talked about mental health, right? Anxiety, that's huge. right? Being able to balance that, it's like, whoa. And then when we can't balance it out, suddenly we hit anxiety, we hit symptoms of depression, we hit a lot of different symptoms on that. So being able to find the grounding measures to balance out the anxiety. How do we improve? How do we develop that relationship with our parents to get to that next step, Amany, right? How do we develop that? What do you think is some solutions that we can really work on that? But as you're thinking about that, I want to throw something at you like a curveball. When I was in college, I remember the landlord's wife, a close friend of mine, she sits me down. She asked me, Vinh, tell me, there's 5 things I want to add. Well, I'm gonna give you 5 things. You pick one and tell me why. I'm like, oh, go ahead, ma'am. Please ask me the question. She says, Vinh, are you American? Are you Vietnamese American? Or are you Asian American? Or just American? What are you? Pick one. You know what I mean? Like, if I were to ask y'all the same question, which one would you pick? You know what I'm saying? In that context, right? So it's like, aren't we everything? Aren't we sort of, so that's a little curveball on the side, but yeah, feel free to express. Go ahead.
I feel like with Arabs, at least, it's become very common to be like, oh, I'm Arab American. Like, no one's going to question you. Like, no, you got to be Arab. You got to be like, there's no one's going to say that. But I feel like with a lot of other places, like, for example, like Asian people, like, there's been a lot of hate. Like, they're like, oh, I'm Asian American. Like, people are like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And like, they're like, oh, I'm from like Vietnam. They're like, what's that? Like, it's not like, I feel it's not as accepted as it is. And I feel like grateful being surrounded by a lot of like Arabs. It's like, no one's second, like, no one questions being Arab American. But if someone says like, oh, I'm Asian American, I'm Indian American, like, somehow that's more hated on, I feel.
Do you have any thoughts?
I just feel like whenever people ask me where I'm from, I'm just like, I'm Indian, and then I just live here because I feel like I grew there, and yes, I consider myself as Indian. I'm just living here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely is a little bit different for me. That was a question I held on for so many years, especially in the Middle East when we would go visit there, and I lived there for a little bit. It was a question of not a question. It was an order given to me that I am an Arabian. My ancestors are from Palestine. That is where you are from. It has been embedded in me, and no questions asked. You just live in America, and that's what I remember as a child. But as I grew up, I'm like, America's a big part of me. I was born here. I was raised here. It is a big part of me. I can't pick one. It's both. And even though a lot of times I struggled with not liking my culture, not wanting to be it, wanting to be anything except Arabic, wanting to be just like everybody else, American. I'm white. Can I just be blonde and white outside? Nobody can know that I'm of Arabic. Nobody would know, but no, it took me a lot, and now I'm proud to say, no, I'm Arab American. I have both, and that's what makes me unique. It makes me different than everybody else. But how many years did it take? How many sessions of therapy did it take for me to get there? And this is where this conversation is perfect to have with the young kids, for them to know that you're not the only one here. Everybody else is struggling. Everybody else is doing it. But finding the path and working towards it, and working towards accepting yourself and for who you are, is the most important path and the most important milestone to reach before getting anything else. It's accepting it.
Wow. I don't have reaction. Oh, I do have reaction emojis. I can send you reaction emojis. I think like 3 or 4. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll jump on that too, because the accepting piece is so strong. I remember there was a gentleman named Viktor Frankl, and he wrote a book about his life and whatnot. And he said that he's been through a lot of suffering. He was living through the Holocaust and all that. And he was in the concentration camps, and a lot of people died during that time. And he wrote that the moment I put meaning to my suffering, suddenly the suffering stops. The moment I give it meaning, because when you give it meaning, suddenly, of course, we understand the situation, what's going on. But when we give it meaning, suddenly the person hurting us doesn't have control anymore. We sort of have control, like we understand what's going on. And it comes back to the dynamics of living in an immigrant family, let's say first generation American, whatnot. If we can give meaning back to, even whether it's mental suffering, physical suffering, whatever it is, then maybe in some sense we can take off some of that tension of that potential suffering, so that we can focus on solutions that's unique to each of us. Because there's no way what we can say on this call to say, oh yeah, this is the solution. No, everyone's individual. Everyone have their own little solution to their own issue. And even if we coming from the same family, right? Everyone's different, even their brothers and sisters. So, but curious on your thoughts on what steps in your life are you taking to that you could share with the audience that would help people understand how to improve their life, living in an immigrant family, living in between different expectations, living in America, trying to follow the dream, but also be respectful to the culture that raised us. Like, what's some of those steps to create that balance for, say, the friend that you're thinking about, or other folks that we know of? So,
wow, that's a good question.
I have to think about that.
Yeah, it's like, I guess, yeah, go ahead.
I think the most important thing you could probably first step, very, very first step, is probably just realize you don't have to be either or. It's okay to make your own identity. There's no certain criteria. You don't have to be just American or just wherever you came from. You could be whatever you want, I guess.
Yeah, I think the balance between both of them, equally, and it's gonna be more helpful.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is. With my experience of finally accepting it, is a balance. Is knowing that a mix of everything makes me who I am, and it's not just my culture, my religion, or my backstory. It's me as a person as growth. I'm growing. I'm constantly seeking education and knowledge, and all these little bits and pieces of my personality and who I'm from and my roots makes me who I am, a unique person. There's no two people that are the same. So I guess the first step to, like the girl said, the first step is just saying, okay, I can be whatever I want to be. Nobody has to set that for me.
I like that. No, thank you for sharing that. Identity, the balance, understanding the balance in between, between that. And that takes, if I may add some flavor to that, for me at least, growing up, is adding a lot of these grounding measures, whether I'm meditating, whether I'm doing yoga, something that sounds a little bit selfish. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm not going to go hang with y'all. I'm going to go do some meditation. I'm going to go do some me time. You know what I mean? And all my friends are saying, what are you doing? I'm like, this is important to me, because if I want to create a balance with you in my life, my folks and everyone, I need to get away just a little bit, just to find out who I really am. So then once I resonate with that, I'm able to find that balance. Now, everyone will have different ways to find that balance. But also to Amany's point, that identity you can create. We're human beings. We're constantly evolving. There's no one thing. I'm this and that's it. I like extra mustard on my hot dog and that's it. I'm like, dude, mustard's great, but what about ketchup, yo? Yo, you're missing out. What about sriracha? It's on inflation. If I run out, it might be $10 a bottle. So sriracha, put that, or hoisin sauce. It's the world. It's to experience. The world has things that we can evolve and learn from, and so there's just so many ways to look at this particular issue, and so many solutions that I encourage everyone listening to discover. Find your solution. Find your way. And just take this conversation as sort of that starting, that we're all going through that same issue. We're all on the same boat, going on the same journey. There's no, I'm better than you, you better than me, or no. We're on the same thing. I want to put the microphone back to y'all for any closing remarks, any thoughts you want to continue to carry on to lift people during this time. What's your message? If you have a microphone right now to broadcast your message to everybody, all the teens out there, all the moms out there, what are you going to say? What are you gonna let them know? Right now, 7 billion people. Right now, you got a microphone. The president says, hey, Amany, you can say whatever you want to say in 30 seconds.
I don't know. I would probably say it's labeling is not something we should do. Labeling yourself, labeling that you are only one thing or a few mix of things is not it. You are unique. You are special, and you are different. Accept it and thrive on it. That's what I would say.
Straight. Wow. Come on, Rahee, Amany. I know you got some good words.
you don't have to like conform to like the standards that you're raised in. There's so much more into the world and to like your individual experience. You don't have to stick to what you grew up with. Like, it's okay to branch. It's okay to change. Like, change is inevitable. You don't have to fight it, I guess.
Thank you.
I feel like, you don't have to prove it to other people. Like, what you are what you are, and you can just believe and like follow your own, thing, and just stay where you are.
Stay true to yourself.
Stay true to yourself. That's the message.
Okay. Now, I really appreciate y'all sharing your thoughts, your message to the world. And I hope that people listening from home can just take this message, cultivate it into their own, and bring their own message to the world. You know what I mean? Which we all can learn from as well. And so for folks who have ideas, put it in the comment box. I'm going to put some information. If you want to reach out to Zaina and talk to Zaina, I'm going to put Zaina's Instagram or something in the description. Feel free to reach out to any of us because we all can help each other out. Take that one step towards humanity, that one step towards wellness, diversity, and inclusion. So with that said, we, on behalf of me, Zaina, Amany, and Rahee, wish everyone a wonderful Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the way to when y'all say hi to us again. So thank you so much and for joining us, Zaina, Amany, Rahee. Until next time, till the next convo. All right.